Well, it's now time for us to have a big story just gone by. There was sports. GRA has reversed discounts on import values on general goods and vehicles, and this starts January 1. I know some of you may not be excited, but we need to find out from the GRA why exactly this is happening. And you can judge for yourself whether it's a good or bad move. We'll also be figuring out the implications on individuals, businesses, and the general economy. This morning, I have two officials from the Customs Division of the GRA, Justice Injonan Maga Yajaimi. I hope I got it right. Yes, okay. Yes. He is Supervisor, Vehicle Valuation Unit, and I know you have a lot of questions for him. We'll be getting interactive. I'll allow you to also engage these officials. And on my far left is Bilson Jadab Ataba. He's Supervisor, Custom Technical Services Bureau. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Great to have you. Hope you're having a good time. Is the season treating you well?
Yes.
Or like me, you are working?
Oh,
no holidays for you.
We're gotten our target, but we are still struggling.
That's good. That's good. It's always good to exceed your target. So let's talk about this reversal of discount on goods and vehicles. Let me start with you, Mr. Yajaimi. What is the genesis of all of this?
Okay. In 2019, when the government came in 2017, 2019, before even 2019, there have been discussions as to how to help businesses. So this was consummated in 2019, and the Vice President in April announced that they were going to get discounts on goods imported and vehicles. So this ran from 2019 up to somewhere last year. And then discussions began because there were moves by Manda Ministry, Finance Ministry, to try and see how, because every policy you make, it doesn't run forever.
Right.
At least there are periodic reviews to see how it works, whether the intended purpose was actually achieved. So last year the discussion began, and then there were moves to get it taken off. But we work with various stakeholders, GUTA, AGI, various pharmaceutical councils, various groups. So they all expressed concerns about the removal. So it was finally agreed this year, that was in February this year, that there should be a gradual reduction of the benchmark. So that was why from March 1st, there was a reduction for goods from 50% to 30%, and for vehicles from 30% to 10%. So that's basically it.
So that's the genesis of all of this.
Yes.
So what does this really mean for businesses and individuals who are importing into the country?
For businesses and individuals, we have gone back to the status quo where they were, because previously duties were calculated on the 100% FOB values. And for vehicles, the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So it was the full value on which the duty was calculated. But for certain considerations that the government put in place and then took into consideration, they gave certain dispensations. But just as I said, policies don't run forever. So on the government's part, there was review, and then they realized the intended purpose has been achieved. So we go back to the status quo. For businesses, they need to adjust, because definitely there will be increase in the taxes in some way, the amount they will pay. So they will need to adjust. And it even depends on where you belong, because if it's AGI, AGI welcomes it. For AGI, they think that it is going to help local businesses to grow. And for those who import like GUTA, they think that it will increase their cost of doing business. So they just have to adjust to the new policy, and then we'll move on.
All right, let me come to you, Mr. Atagba. You have something to add?
Add to what he said about the benefits. The actual goal, the target is to the consumer. This discount policy was geared towards relief to the consumers. For instance, the importers import goods and they are charged at a discount rate. This is supposed to have an impact on the consumer.
But now you're taking it off, it means that the consumer will not
Exactly.
benefit
Why?
from the
Because
impact.
the impact is not felt. The beneficiaries that are targeted are not having that impact. That effect is not seen by the consumers. For instance, when it started, Abosokan, they had 0% rated for some of their products. Then, in addition to that, the discounts. You go to the markets, the deviation from the price and after the implementation or during the implementation was about the same or even higher. And when you ask them, they said duties have increased. Apparently, we have given discount, we have given you lower rates. So why will you price the things to the consumer? So what it means is that the distributor, the retailer, or the importer
is the one benefiting.
Yes. Right. But the majority of the consumers do not benefit from the policy because prices have not deviated so much from, let's take away this apparent effect of the global economic downturn. Nothing like that changed when the economy was stable. So, in effect, the reason for some of this reversal is due to the non-effects on the consumers.
But let's talk about the timing. I've had encounters, discussions with business people. They talk about the harsh economic times. I understand your concerns that the consumers may not necessarily be feeling the impact of these discounts that you give to businesses. But the timing of this, is this not a bit too harsh?
Anyway, that is a government policy. We are implementers of government policy. So when it comes to policy directives, as stated in the budget statement, at the end of every year or November, government comes out with a budget statement. In that budget statement, there are policy directives that are geared towards revenue mobilization or relief to some sectors of the public or the population. So government in its own wisdom will just say, no, let's do this or that. You know what we are going for? We are going to IMF, and a lot of things will have to give way. We need to mobilize more revenue for social interventions by government. So how do you mobilize those revenues? There are things we cannot do because we ratify some of these agreements together with other member nations. You cannot send this to Parliament. Looking at the hung Parliament we have in Ghana now, it will be very difficult for some of these things to be sent there for rates, like tax rates, to be removed, or for us getting out of ECOWAS. ECOWAS is a body that comprises some 15 nations in West Africa who have embodied the use of the CET, Common External Tariff, that we all use the same rates. You get it? So you cannot go and change the rates alone. Unilaterally, you cannot have that done unless it is sent to Parliament or the whole body of the economic body will have to decide to change that. And if you cannot do that, what do? You have to bring in other measures. So some of these measures that are being dealt with, like the reversal, is just a way of mobilizing more revenue.
So,
if you are looking at the timing, I think to add to what he said, there have been discussions, as I said, yes. Various interest groups were brought on board before the government, they put it in the budget. So the timing, I don't see anything wrong with it because they are aware that definitely this is going to happen.
So and they here is in reference to the stakeholders.
The AGI, the various, they were all invited. Yes.
Budget, before budget is formulated or whatever, they go to all the stakeholders. Yes. They are engaged.
Well, I mean, you are not politicians, so I wouldn't want to go into that arena with you because we've had issues and instances where there have been references made to certain engagements, but the stakeholders say they've not been engaged. Classic example has to do with the TUC and the debt exchange program, which we see government's reversal on. But let's go back to the issue of the reversal on discount. So this takes effect on the 1st of January, which is a Sunday. What does it mean if I've imported goods and they are on the way, they are yet to arrive? Will it take effect based on the import date or the date of arrival?
Okay, what happens is that's why in the memo there are concessions. So if you look at the memo, if you import, for now, for instance, if you have a vehicle or container in the port and you decided not to pay the duty, it will affect you when it takes effect. If you have goods coming in and the vessel hasn't arrived, and then you have the BL, we have the section which gives you the opportunity, that's section 50, pre-entry of our law 891, that's the Customs Act 2015, 891. It gives you the opportunity to be able to put in a BOE, that's a bill of entry, and then when it is assessed, your goods are assessed, you are given the opportunity to pay. And for us as customs, to be able to enter and then avoid any future effect of any change in policy or any change in rates or taxes, you need to first enter it in the system. We have a word we call entered, and that word entered has a meaning. You should have captured it in the system as in icons. The system will validate, and then you go to the bank, pay. Once you effect the payment, then you know that you have done everything that is required. So when there is any change in policy, like this one, you are not affected. So that has also been captured for stakeholders to know that they can go through some of these things to avoid. But if you look at the memo again, the very first point on transitional provision is giving them the opportunity to be able to, for those goods which will be discharged on 31st, it's not their fault. So to be fair, that's why you see that there's fairness stated there, to be fair to them, so that we don't have complaints about people saying they've gone through hassle, their goods were discharged on 31st, and it was Saturday, they couldn't clear. That is why that one is giving them the opportunity to be able to clear it without the effect of the
new directive.
The new directive. So they should take the memo as is stated. If you have goods coming, you can pay. There's opportunity for you to get your agent to put in a bill of entry, you pay, and then when it arrives, you just do manifest margin and clear it.
So that means that you just have a very, very small window, because tomorrow is a Saturday.
Yes.
And Sunday, 1st January, that takes effect. So if you're listening to us and you're expecting goods, you just want to do as you're being told this morning. So it's interesting. For many people, it's not a case of whether we have discounts or not. They say that, look, the kind of computation customs do, especially on vehicles that come into this country, is astronomical. Someone says, I bought a car for $2,000, and I get here, and I'm being asked to pay like 10,000 cedis, or even about 5 times the cost of the vehicle or more. Why is that? Why do we have to go through such stress?
Okay, if you look at the vehicle valuation covered by Section 6891/2015, that's the law. And per the law, we don't look at your transaction value if it's a used vehicle. If they are new vehicles, we go through your invoice, we go through, make sure that it's reasonable. Yes, that is how much you have actually paid for it. Then we use it for valuation. But if it's used vehicle, it's treated differently. With a used vehicle, that law allows us to use the manufacturer's suggested retail price. That is the price that was actually sold to the first user of the vehicle by a dealer in said vehicle. So this is a database of all the prices on all vehicles, whether from Europe or from North America, Canada, which is the same region. They are in the systems. So when you come, A comes with the same vehicle, B comes with the same vehicle. You are supposed to pay the same amount of tax. Unless, of course, there's exchange rate variation, which will account for that. If not, you are supposed to. This is just to be fair to everybody.
So if I get you clearly, if Mr. Taba Bilson buys Corolla, and it's used, and he buys it at 2,000 cedis, and I buy the same vehicle and I buy it at 1,500. What the GRA or what the Customs Division is trying to do is to ensure that because it's the same vehicle,
yes,
we pay the same thing.
Yes.
And so you don't evaluate it based on how much he bought it or how much I bought it, but how much the manufacturer or dealer of the vehicle pegs the price at.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. This law was made for a reason. It has a history, a long history. Ghanaians during a champion time when they were allowed for the first time to bring a vehicle. They were allowed to bring their bill of sales. But this was this case where even at that time, bill of sales were faked. You understand? So this law has a background. So at a point, they just had to, policymakers resolve that, okay, then let's be fair to everybody. Once you bring the same vehicle, the same engine capacity, the big models, and the type, the fuel type is the same, everything is the same. Like, the two of them should pay the same amount of duty. You understand? So, to be fair, this was based on fairness because as part of the canons of taxation, we are supposed to be fair. Assessment must be fair, collection must be fair.
We'll be opening the phone lines shortly. My colleague will put it up on the screen, 0302211691, 0302211691. If you have any questions for Mr. Atagba and Mr. Yajaime, we'll be glad to hear them. I will be taking more reactions from other stakeholders, but let me come to you, Mr. Yajaime. So we've spoken about this.
I want to add to what he said. The difference between the valuation of goods and vehicles are very, very different. For goods, they are regulated by the WTO laws, principles. Article 7 clearly defines that of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. But when it comes to used vehicles especially, there's no formula from WTO that regulates or that will actually help you in processing vehicle valuation. So it is something that each member nation develops.
Okay, on its own.
On its own.
So if you're watching us and you have issues with this, it means you need to speak to your member of parliament, because if there's going to be any change, it has to come through the laws.
Yes.
Customs cannot do anything about
it.
Right. We'll be joined shortly by President of GUTA, Joseph Obeng, for his quick thoughts on this. But so for goods, right, how will this work out? We know how this will pan out for vehicles, the percentage. For goods, what are the real values goods, that
it started with 50%, then it was reduced, like he said, 30%, and now we are supposed to take it off. So the status quo will remain the same. Like pre-2019, when they were importing goods, yours is just to declare the actual value that you bought the goods. If your values are very genuine, are very valid, we will accept it. And if there are any adjustments that we can do to add or subtract from the transaction value that you have given us, then we'll do that and give you a tax base upon which your duty will be calculated. So it is not too different from the pre-2019 era, when the government policy directive came in to introduce this relief just to take away or to reduce the cost of importation by way of helping people to build their businesses and for manufacturers to increase production locally. So,
are there any exceptions to this reversal of the discount on goods?
There's no exception. Everything is being affected, except hitherto the exceptions to the policies were there. Exemptions, these parliamentary exemptions on the ministries, departments and agencies, statutory free goods, they were not affected. Free zone goods were not being affected. And diplomatic treatment, all those things, they were not being affected. Temporary importation, re-importation were not being affected. Transit was not being affected. Apart from warehousing, direct import that were being affected, kind of. All other regimes, that is the export, the temporary export, the re-export, the direct import, the temporary import, the re-import, the warehousing, the transshipment, and stores and free zone, where they were not affected.
So now will they all be affected?
I mean to say they did not enjoy.
Okay, they did not benefit from it.
Yes, they did not benefit from it. So it was only the direct import.
Okay.
And
so it's back to square one for everybody.
For everybody.
I mean, obviously there's something in this for you, right? The benefits.
The benefits, like I said, is the policy is a government policy, geared towards one, not always thinking of revenue all the time, but also trying to alleviate the plight of the consumers. So if people are complaining about high prices in town, government must be concerned and see what they can do. And like you said, constant engagement with stakeholders will help government to see what policies to bring in place to help the economy. So one of those insights into those meetings were that we should do this discount policy because we cannot go back to, we cannot take ourselves from ECOWAS, we cannot stop using the CET, so we have to do something like this to alleviate the plight of the consumers.
Right.
So the benefit to GRA is twofold. One is revenue will come, and how are we going to be very conscious of our borders and security to be able to protect to prevent leakage.
I have a question on that when you spoke about borders, but we have to take our first caller from Kintampo. Hello, Kingsley. Good morning. Let's hear you.
Yeah, my name is Clinton. Yeah.
Please, let's hear you.
Yeah. I would like to know why somebody has to pay like ×2 or ×3 of the amount used in purchasing a brand new vehicle.
A brand new vehicle or a used vehicle?
Yeah, a brand new vehicle. And is it that there's a fixed price for everybody to pay, or they charge you how much they wish to charge you?
All right, thank you for your question. And if there's another caller, we'll take that caller and then answer the question in batches. But if not, let's just try and respond. I'm sure he just joined the program because it's something we've touched on already.
Yes.
But briefly, for him, he is wondering why he has to pay more, twice or thrice the amount of goods that a vehicle, right? A brand new vehicle.
Okay. For the brand new vehicle, as I said, we go by the transaction value method where we use the invoices. But if your invoice is tempered, if it's not genuine, we know. Because the others who bring, we have dealers here. Toyota, we have VW, we have Nissan, as Japan Motor, they are all here. So we know the values they bring. So if you bring anything lower, that is why we are there. So if you bring anything lower, we'll have to adjust it accordingly. So that is basically the issue. So if the person thinks that maybe he came and then he paid more, I don't think so. Because we go by a certain standard set. We look at the values, and we have instances where somebody will bring a Prado which costs about 40,000 and is quoting 12,000.
Okay. So are you saying here that it is impossible for brand new vehicles for anybody to pay duty above the cost of the vehicle?
No, it's not possible.
For brand new vehicles?
It's never possible.
Okay.
Because the duties are paid in Ghana cedis. So when you pay in Ghana cedis, no tax is collected in foreign currency. The foreign currency aspect we just use because they manufacture them there, and we cannot cost them here. So you have to use the cost build-up from the country of importation. So when they come here, that's why the exchange effect. We have to add the freight, calculate the insurance, and then we get our CIF as the tax base, and after that we use the exchange rate to convert into Ghana cedi before we start doing the assessment for the various taxes.
Okay.
And it's in Ghana cedis. So if you bring, I don't think that it's never possible.
Okay.
It's never possible.
We have another caller, Benjamin from Accra. Hello, Benjamin. Let's hear you. Hello, Benjamin.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Please, let's hear you.
Yeah, I want to ask the man who is in charge of vehicle valuation. I want to know why is it that they charge the duty on dollar? Because
no, but he's just said, Benjamin, he's just said they don't do that. They just use that for exchange rates, right? So they give you the cedi.
Yes, taxes are paid in Ghana cedis. No tax is levied in foreign currency. The vehicle you bought was not manufactured in Ghana, so we cannot cost it in Ghana cedis. That's the basis of it. It was manufactured, let's say, in Europe, and all the cost build-up were in Euro. So we cannot sit here and cost it in Ghana cedis. So what we basically do is that we take the cost of it from the country of origin, and then we use our exchange rate to convert into Ghana cedis before we do the assessment for the.
And now too, there are some charges like he said fire service will charge you. There are some charges that
those ones are not customs.
You add all these charges to the duty, it makes it cost. And we are all in Ghana here now. The business, the way the business is going on in Ghana and at the port, when you go to the port, you all see that it's not going well.
Right, Benjamin.
That's why it's affecting the
Point
country.
well noted. Thank you very much.
They should have done something for us to at least continue to do the business. If
Right.
we are not there, they are also not there. And if we are not there, we are also not coming.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. But we have established here that all the GRA does is to follow the law. So if there must be any real change, it must happen from the angle of the law. And if Ghanaians really want, for example, the discount policy to still continue, then we must press our MPs to ensure that this is legal, and then the GRA will just implement what the law says. But on the bit,
Based on what you said, you see, there are some of the charges which do not have anything to do with customs. Like he's talking about fire service, we have nothing to do with it. If you are talking about shipping line charges, it doesn't have anything to do with customs.
Okay.
So there are other charges apart from the taxes you pay to customs, GRA, that you have to pay, we do not have anything to do with it. Because when you take the bill of entry, you just pay to GRA what you find on the bill of entry. So anything outside that you are paying is not to GRA, but to an agency which you don't have control over.
Mr. Ataba, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say that what GRA does after the budget statement is to Commissioner General to come out with Commissioner General's order. It comes out with what we called Commissioner General's order just to detail the processes, the implementation map for GRA, how we should go about the implementation of the policy directive as stated in the budget. So the only way we come in when it comes to this policy formulation is the implementation, where the Commissioner General will study the budget statement and outline the various steps and processes that we as GRA staff can use to apply and achieve our goals.
Okay, we have our last caller for now, Raphael. Hello, Raphael, let's hear you.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Raphael, please listen to me on your phone. If you listen on the television, there will be a delay. So please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Good morning, madam.
Raphael, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. It's like I heard a vehicle valuation man saying that 2010 Corolla, the tax value on 2010 Corolla will be the same as the tax value on 2018 Corolla.
No, that's not what, no, we've not said that here. What the example that I cited was on the used vehicles and why they do not compute the duties based on how much you bought it. And he said, for fairness sake, if I bought a used vehicle, which is at 2,000 cedis, and another person bought the same brand, same model at 1,500 cedis, we will not say because you bought it at 1,500 cedis, pay this. We look at what the dealership or the manufacturer costs the vehicle and make the computation on that basis.
Okay, I understand, but even in that angle, I think that it is wrong because the luxurious aspect and the value of the vehicle at that moment, they are not the same, and it's like even in spite of all these differences in tax, people are still bringing in the used vehicle to pay equivalent tax unlike the new one. So what you should ask himself, why people are still, in spite of all these differences, why are still people bringing used vehicle? Because of the income capacity of the country. So if the policymakers are making certain decisions, they have to be realistic to the people of the country, because this is totally unfair. Because how many people can afford? Let's be realistic. How many people can afford? New vehicle will be able to based on our income. So it's like, I mean, if this is what is happening, I mean, it is totally unfair. They have to review their policy. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you as well.
If I can explain further. When we take the value, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, because it is a used vehicle, it is depreciated. So we don't just use the value when we take it. In the law, it is spelled out that for vehicles which are up to 6 months, they are considered, they are valued as if they are new. So you don't get depreciation on it. If beyond 6 months up to 1.5 months, we give a 15% depreciation. So if it's beyond 1.5 years, up to 2.5 years, we give 30%.
Right.
2.5 years, up to 5 years, we get 40%. And then beyond 5 years, it's 50%. So the values, as we apply them, look at the age. Because if somebody brings a vehicle, the customs officer cannot determine whether the engine is faulty or not. So that is why there was a parameter of age, so that after the age is so easy. When we take the chassis number, we know the age. Nobody can manipulate that. You understand? So the public should understand that the law is made to satisfy everybody and not to satisfy a particular individual. Say that when you do that, you are going to manipulate, people will manipulate the system. But when it is made to satisfy everybody, the manipulations are different. You bring a vehicle and then the special features are not the same. Corolla, basic. Those days we had C, we had LE, we had S. Somebody goes in for S. He knows why he's going because he sees the alloy wheels, isn't it? He goes in and the transmission bar is shining. He goes into LE, it's not the same.
Leather seats.
Leather interior. You see it. All this go into the value. The manufacturer puts this into the value. So you see value difference, even though you have a Highlander, somebody has a Highlander, his is LE, yours is XLE. There's a reason why it's XLE, because there are features built in it. Some have DVD, others don't have. A manufacturer, when he does it, these are add-ons. You add to the cost. So the value will be high. So if you are going to buy and you don't understand these dynamics, you come and say, oh, Kofi brought this same vehicle and you pay this, and I paid. You understand? So you should understand that when you go and you see the vehicle, it's, oh, I want the leather interior, I want air conditioning, I want...
It's all part of the cost building.
Part of the cost.
Right. Ms. Asaba, you want to say something before I bring Dr. Joseph
I
Obing?
think he has stated them. I wrote them somewhere. He stated them. That is the same type of car, the same year, the same age, the same capacity. Like he's saying, they have different features. You see them packed together, but you go to each of them, you see some differences. Those differences, like he's saying, account for the additional prices or cost values. That is added on. Therefore, the duty of one will be different from the other.
Right. Let me now bring in Dr. Joseph Obing, President of GUTA. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a good time this holiday season.
Hello.
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I said, hope you're having a good time this holiday season.
Yeah, I was just resting.
And business and how's business? Usually at this time of the year, we know that even though times are hard, people will try to squeeze a little here and there and buy a few items to celebrate the season.
Yeah, because life must continue. life must continue. So people manage to do what they have to do. So there was a sales, I must say, yeah. Right.
So this issue of the GRA reversing discounts on import values and on goods and vehicles from the 1st of January, we understand that this was done in consultation with organizations like yours and the AGI. So what exactly convinced you to, if I may use the word, buy into the idea of reversing this policy?
Yeah, I think let's put the whole valuation system into place for people to understand. the valuation system that we have here is quite confusing in that when you look at the WTO laws, there's nothing like benchmark values. The valuation system, the first call is the transactional value. And this transactional value has been a subject of an argument always between us, the traders or the importers, and the customs. Because people have different ways of sourcing their goods. People buy bulk quantities to get reduction. People buy directly from manufacturers. People buy from agents. People buy from even shops. And so values cannot be the same, understandably. And so if somebody brings a legitimate transaction value, then of course that's what the WTO laws says that you should use for the valuation. But normally the customs have been suspicious that we temper with our values. And it's true that some of us also temper with our values. But the way to solve it is what have brought the confusion, and that's the benchmark values. It's a set of values that customs have brought set against our own values. And most times, their values are very, very high, and that has brought a lot more agitation because they do not conform with the values, the actual transactional values that we have. So it's not that government have reduced duties. No, duties have never been reduced for anybody. The duty rates are the same. Cumulatively, we pay duties between 55% to 65%, depending on the duty that you are paying. If it is 20%, it cumulates to about 55%. If it's 35% dutable item, you accumulate to about 65%. So let's establish that.
Doc, sorry to interject. Sorry to interject. If I get you right, you're saying that the discount policy was of no value because of the benchmark policy that was also being run alongside it?
Exactly. The benchmark value, normally they should treat our transactional values, and because of suspicion, they always want to rely on their own set of values. And this set of values that they have is what have been bringing the agitations, confusion, controversies at the port all the time. If you see us arguing with customs because they have set their values over and above what our values are. So the reduction in this benchmark value is when we have a complaint to government that duties are high, because benchmark values are also high, and the duty rates itself are very high. So we have gone that government should reduce the duty rates. And then government, out of its own wisdom, said that, okay, the benchmark values that you people have been arguing all the time should be considered. And that's why we came to struck average on the benchmark value, and they gave us 50%, and later they reduced to 30%, and in the case of cars, 10%. And now, because AGI have put up an argument and lobbied government that importation have become so cheap, imported goods have become so cheap, and that it has rendered them useless in the competition. And so if government wants industrialization to thrive, and then they have to remove totally the benchmark values. And that's why we have reached this level, that government have bought into the argument of AGI that because of the benchmark reduction, they are uncompetitive, and that we should make everything possible for imported goods to become extremely high so that they can have their way. And so this is how the background is.
So if I get you, you are not really in agreement with this reversal of discounts on goods and vehicles?
Yeah, if you are taking this benchmark reversal policy, then we have to go strictly to the transactional values. They have to respect our transactional values. But it's not that customs want their revenue, they increase their benchmark. Benchmark means you are just using it as a cross-check mechanism. And that is not sacrosanct. It's not something that is made out of metal jacket that you cannot say that you are considering the transactional value. And that's what the WTO allows. There's nothing like benchmark at all. And so if they are taking the discount away, it means that you are not going to have any fair balance as regards with the benchmark values, because then they have to resort to our transactional values. And this is what the argument should be. Otherwise, if they continue to increase arbitrarily their benchmark, what they use to cross-check our values, whether it is high or not, then we have to abide by that. And so whenever customs need more revenue, then it doesn't got any factory, it doesn't produce anything, and then it just increase price. And for what God, we do not sit down to make the prices together. And so if they use their discretion to make these prices and then benchmark against your transactional value, it means that your transactional value is useless. And that's what is required by WTO. And so what has brought the argument is the non-respect or regard of the transactional value. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come this far. Because when we met government, we have gone to government that the values that we pay for duties are very high, and that it cumulates to about over 55%. If you bring goods worth of $100,000, you have to pay $55,000 at your duty. And this is what we have told government. So duty rates were not even affected. Duty rates, government did not reduce for us. But the benchmark, the tool of cross-checking our values, that customs have overly increased it. And that has been the contention, and that has been the argument that we are having with customs. That's what government said, that then you should reduce your benchmark. So this is the story.
All right, Doc, so there's another suggestion that
thank you.
There was hello, Doc, are you there? Hello, Doc? Well, I think we lost Doc there. Okay. Hello, Doc?
No, I can't hear.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me now?
Please, I can't hear you.
All right. We'll try and reconnect to Doc and get... So, I
can hear you, please.
All right. If you can hear me, I'd just like you to briefly respond to this for me. The suggestion is that the discount policy was introduced so that it could trickle down to the consumer. So the importer will not have to pay so much, so that he will not run the cost onto the consumer, and the consumer will get a bit of relief. The suggestion here is that the consumers did not really benefit from this policy. What will your response to that be?
Yeah.
Right, we seem to have a problem with Doc's line that we'll rectify it.
Respond
so yes, let me come to you first, Mr. Taiba. So he says that, look, this whole discount thing, and he agrees, just that he cites a different reason than what you cited. Yeah. So we all agree that, look, the discount policy was to achieve something, but it didn't achieve it for him because the benchmark value system and the discount policy were running concurrently. He claims that the customs put the benchmark values very high, and so by the time you are enjoying the discount, you have to pay for it because of benchmark valuation.
I was expecting you to kind of correct him by the misuse of the benchmark.
So I asked him, and that's why you're here, and your official response has weight than mine.
Yes.
That's why you're here.
So
the issue of, because while he was interacting, I wasn't too sure whether he was using benchmark and discount interchangeably, and that's why I clarified with him on the use of them concurrently.
But he came in by saying that the benchmark, the hitherto called benchmark values are to be used to cross-check their values. If I want to know from him, apart from the transactional value method, the WTO equally has other 5 methods that must be applied. Why do they exist? Those other 5, method 2, method 3, method 4, method 5, method 6. The transactional value is the method 1. That is, if all documents are genuine, everything seems to be correct, verifiable, then we can apply that. Then if you cannot, by Article 17, if you cannot, or by the Risk Management Unit, detecting, using Section 3 of our Act, 2015, Act 891, if the Risk Management Unit comes out to say, there are so many deviations when it comes to the valuation of same products from different importers. You have 10 importers importing the same product, but have different values, very big variations in their valuations. What do you do as an authority? And our motto, our vision is to be fair, uniform, and neutral to the trading public. So if you see that, as an authority, I'm going to sit down and not align or verify why this one is declaring lower value and this one is declaring higher value. Don't forget, we have whistleblowers, we have competitors that come to us with informations that this person is selling his item in a shop at a price like this, but I cannot sell mine like that. Why is that so? We need to verify. So the risk management unit put down those details and try to go into the system, verify by searching on other sites and even checking from the exporter himself or the manufacturer to find out by way of just requesting window shopping, how much do you sell this? And it comes out clear that the value is different. We are talking of real-time values. Real-time values are what must be presented to us. But what we see most times are varying values. The same importer can buy something a week ago at $5. Then the same importer will bring it at $1. Very big difference. So you need to investigate that. The benchmark value, as he's calling it, we don't use it for what he is thinking, but he has corrected himself by saying we use it to cross-check. It's just a guide. It's a risk assessment tool that we internally have as a database. And the WTO requires of us to build database to manage our system. It is required of every member nation to have a database. For instance, if Cote d'Ivoire is having a lot of re-export from Ghana, you import goods into Ghana and it's going to Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire asks, why are you not coming directly to me? Why is this? Or there's something, everybody wants to cut corners, or they want to see where they can achieve lower cost of importation. So all these things, we have to gauge ourselves, guide ourselves, use them as yardstick. We don't use them as he said, emphatically, we don't use them. We just use it to guide and even monitor and control our staff so that staff A cannot give a different value from staff B.
Right. So this the discount that has been reversed, the benchmark policy still exists, right?
That policy, like I said, the benchmark, there's nothing like benchmark policy.
Oh, okay.
What we have is reference price lists.
Okay. You said that the last time you came.
Reference price lists that we use, like we said, if the risk management unit detects that somebody is declaring too low a value, the attention must be brought to us that this one, you have to watch your valuation. And like I said, we have to be fair, uniform, and neutral to everybody, irrespective of whoever. That is why sometimes we have to check your relationship with your exporter, the multinational enterprises, the malls, the bigger shops you see in town? Are they having branches or subsidiaries here that have parent companies abroad so that they just give them any price on the invoice to give to us by that under declaring? You get it? So we check all those things to ensure uniformity and fairness in the system.
We have Dr. Joseph Obin back on, but we've also been joined by Seth Chumakwabwa, Executive Secretary of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI. So, Mr. Chumakwabwa, I want to believe the AGI is excited by this. Dr. Obin has said that your association has lobbied because your claim is that because of the policy, the discount policy, it creates unnecessary competition, especially for industries here that are producing similar products that are being imported into the country. Your quick response to that?
I don't know what he's calling by lobbying. This is not an open secret. Right from the very day that the benchmark discount value was announced, AGI condemned it. We thought that it was not the best of policy to come into being at the time. And we've been very open about it. There have been open discussions. And we've engaged several times together with GUTA on this issue. Ministry of Finance has called us. We've met at EMT. There have been several occasions that we've met that they have also been part of it. And our issues have been very clear right from day one. We've made presentations with figures, with facts, indicating the effect of the benchmark value reduction on industries. So this is not open secret at all. It's something that we stand by it, and we think that it wasn't the best of arrangement for promoting local industries. Government says we want to go industrialization, so we are introducing one district, one factory. We are making every effort to improve industrialization, and at the same time, we bring a policy that makes industries suffer because you make the imports much cheaper than local industries. So that's where we had the problem with. Let me also clarify one thing, that AGI advocacy was never to ask for a reversal of the benchmark value or discount values on all products. When we look at the custom statistics, we import more than 6,000 different products into this country. AGI selected about 48. That's what we agreed with government. About 48 of them, we think that we have local manufacturers. We have some local capacity to produce these products. Even if it's not 100%, we have significant capacity. And the capacity can be easily increased to produce all of them. And therefore, those are the products we're targeting. And we said, if government wants to reduce discount values for those other products, we have no problem. It's between government and its citizens. If today, government says you are bringing in items that you are not producing locally, and you don't pay any duty at all, it's zero rated, we have no problem with it. But what we thought was unfair was the fact that you have local producers producing manufactured products, bringing them into the market. Conditions for production hasn't changed. Electricity cost has not changed. Cost of capital hasn't changed. When you go to borrow from a bank, you still pay the high interest cost. Nothing has changed. And suddenly, you reduce the benchmark values, which made it possible for them to reduce the duty payment by about 50%. So naturally, you make the imported products much cheaper than the locally produced products. And therefore, the local products were suffering in the market. This is a very simple thing that everybody understands. Bear in mind also that we also have what we call the CET values, the CET arrangement with the ECOWAS Common External Tariff. So we have a common tariff within ECOWAS. We didn't alter that because that wouldn't have been acceptable by ECOWAS. So what we did was that they reduced the benchmark values. And as was explained by the custom officials, the benchmark value that we are talking about is just a guide. It is when there is dispute. In actual fact, when it was introduced, some of us explained that it is not going to be a complete reduction because normally how they apply it is that when you declare your values, and they think that the value you have declared is not consistent with the value they have in their books, or they think your values are maybe too low to enable you to pay lower duty, then they look at what they call the benchmark values, like the targeted value. So they look at it as a guide. If it is way, way below, then they say, no, let's apply what the standard rate is. And that is what the benchmark value is. So we thought that if it was going to be even applied, it will happen in circumstances where the values you have declared are in dispute. When it's in dispute, then they use it as a guide. When it's not in dispute, you pay the right values. But that's not what happened. What actually happened was that when the benchmark value discount was introduced, it virtually reduced all the duties by half. So it wasn't so much of what you have declared. It was the standard rate that was used and then reduced by half. So basically, the duty rate came down by about 50%. And that's what we thought was unfair because it was affecting local industries. And you know that in recent times when we had a challenge with COVID, and even this year, we've had all these challenges with the importation of goods, it's local industries that everybody's talking about. That why don't we produce some of the essential products in adequate quantities, in volumes, to feed our country? If you continue to rely on imports, when those other countries are shutting down, what are you going to do? So you want to encourage local production. And therefore, reversing it, for me, is the right thing to do.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that our focus was on about 48 products that we have local capacity to produce. For the rest, it's up to government. If Buta want to argue on the rest, we have no problem with them. But those that we are producing locally, we think it's unfair to reduce the benchmark values by 50%. And if government today says it's reversing it, then it should be understandable.
Mr. Kwabwa, I'm really excited that you spoke about the specific goods that you wanted government to reverse this policy on, because my next question to you was going to be, do you have the capacity to produce or compete with the importation sector with regards to all the items that are brought into this country? So I'm happy that you clarified that. But moving forward, how are you hoping to take advantage of this? Because even in your earlier response, you mentioned that even in some cases, you may not be able to produce to your fullest capacity, but you can produce at least to a certain percentage that can meet the demand. So how are you hoping to take advantage of this policy or the reversal of this policy?
Okay, when it comes to the capacity issues, it's always very important to discuss it because people take it out of context. Capacities are not built overnight. Capacities are not built in vacuum. You build capacity based on market demand. You cannot say that, let me increase capacity and produce large volumes. When the market is not taking it, how are you going to sell your products? So as you create market conditions that enable people to consume local products, then as the consumption continues to grow, then you also increase capacity. So that's how it is. So when they say capacity, you cannot build capacity overnight and produce the goods and store it. It doesn't happen like that. No business person or industry will do that. In any case, there are some of the products that we actually have excess capacity, and I can give you a few examples. If you take the oils, for example, just two companies, their capacity for producing edible oil, the Frito and the rest, it is actually, when you put the two companies together, even 50% of their total production cannot even be consumed by the Ghanaian market. They must actually export to be able to stay in business. So there's excess capacity. Take the cables. We have 3 cable companies in Ghana that are all ISO certified. Today, they are all struggling. If you give them the opportunity and the market condition is there, they can flood the market with their total capacity and we'll have no problem. Take some like, even basic thing like machetes. We have a company in Tema that produces, they are now producing about, let's say, 40% capacity. If you don't bring any machete in, they can go to 100%, and there's no way even Ghana can take all the machete they will produce. So there are several products that we have excess capacity. Others we may have just adequate. Others we have below capacity. But even where we don't have adequate capacity, you grow it. But you create conditions where the market is becoming difficult for the producers. There's no way they will increase the capacity. So create conditions, create environment that makes the local production less cheaper and more competitive in the market, and then you grow the capacity, taking advantage of it. Yes, as we are, this is not a new thing. It's not a new introduction. It's just a reversal to the status quo or where it was before several years ago. So, if you will say taking advantage of it, with this situation, expectation is that the local industries will become more competitive. For that reason, there will be growth in demand for their products. And if there is growth in demand for their products, naturally, they will expand to take advantage of it. So that's how we build capacity and take advantage of market conditions. We have to create the market conditions to grow. We need to create jobs. We have so many people coming out of this country, coming out of our universities. Over 200,000 people are coming out of our universities. Where are they going to get their jobs? And industries and agriculture, when you link them properly, that's where the jobs are created. So it's very important that we bear some of these principles in mind and grow our industries and help create the jobs that we need. So capacity can be easily built.
Right. Let me come back to you, Dr. Joseph Obeng, and thank you for reconnecting. So you've just had Mr. Akwabwa say that for them, it wasn't over about 6,000 products that were imported into this country that they were concerned about. Just about 44 of them, leaving about 5,950. So what will it mean for consumers with regards to this? Are you going to fight to have the discount on those other products that are not part of the AGI selection? What exactly are you going to do?
Yeah. Really, we support the growth of the local industries. And I think if we have to do this to support them, why not? Now we are going to look from within and then outsource some of these things from the locally made. If so, they are not competitive. We are not bound to buy locally. And so the onus lies on them to find what they have comparative advantage and produce, because we are in a global village, and that they cannot always say that importation should be stopped so that they can have their way. So we support them in this regard, and that what the government should have done is to select the item that is actually produced here and then give this a reversal, complete reversal, and leave the others. But once they've lumped them together, what that government wants to do, because of our quest for industrialization, is to make importation expensive so that the local industries can thrive. So definitely prices will trickle down, because then we would have succeeded making importation expensive. And so definitely this will trickle down to the consuming public. Don't forget that we have VAT also to contend with, and it's also starting at the beginning of the year. Means that cost of doing business is going to go up, and for us traders, we have to pass on these costs to the consuming public. And the little gain that we got from the stability of the city, I'm afraid, might be tempered with. And so if we want to mitigate the plight of the consuming public, I think the best way to have gone is to select these items, as my brother Akwabwa was saying, so that they do the complete reversal. And then those that we do not have total capacity to produce here, will get some respite, so that the consuming public will also can better their lot, because their purchasing power has been seriously affected over the past couple of months. At the same time, we support local industries, but the onus lies on them to deliver. We are going to take on them. We are going to look from within and see if they can supply, because we are not bound to import only from outside, and that it will be in our own interest if the local industry thrives, so that we do not have to contend with duty payment and all that.
Right.
And that we just buy from within. And then the nation will also boost in terms of productivity.
Finally, for you, Dr. Obeng, earlier you said that you couldn't see the impact of this discount policy, and so consumers had to naturally pay for more. And you've just spoken about VAT, which will also start in 2023. Clearly, we know that there will be some increase, but should it be such that it will be burdensome, or we should expect something quite insignificant?
You see, our component of costing, the major ones are foreign exchange. That's the rate at which we buy the dollar. And then the second one is duty. So if these two factors are affected, then definitely it will also affect our pricing. The duties, as it were, is going to go up about over 40% because of the reversal of the benchmark, and then the contribution of VAT in the duty payment. So we are not expecting less than 40% increment, and that will be transferred to the consuming public, no doubt about that.
Right. So back to the studio. I've still got Mr. Jaimi and Mr. Tagba in the studio with me, all with the customs division of the GRA. So, Mr. Tagba, your quick response, final words?
Yes, to Mr. Dr. Obi, I want to say that the benchmark, so-called benchmark values, as stated by you, just cover about 500 products. Like you said, internationally traded commodities about 6,000 and above in the HS. We cover just about 500. That was before the current one. And now we've expanded it. But the same product, just that we have different technologies of different products of the same type. So we needed to expand them to cover. So out of 6,000, and we are covering just 500. So not every product is being affected, so-called affected, by this reference price list. Not at all. And don't forget, when government wants to draw budget, they come to customs. How much has been imported? What values are given? Statistical Services Department. All these people come for data. In compiling this data, I'm going to be giving different values, especially to the highly tradable commodities, like rice, sugar, those things. You give this, you give this. When you can actually look for the real-time values internationally, in the market, you get it. So we have not covered all products. We've just covered a few of them, 500, and to their surprise, about 100 of the previous ones have been reduced. The values were up there. We give a markdown of the ones recently reviewed.
That is on the reference price list?
Yes, the reference price list. About 100 of them, their prices have been reviewed downwards.
Okay.
Some have been maintained. Some have been raised, just to guide us. You get it? And the WTO requires of us to build database. Every 90 days, we are supposed to go and sanitize our database that we have. So it is not out of law that we just do.
So something just came to mind. So we all know, so it's been put in the news generally, the GRA has reversed discount on importation of values of goods and vehicles. But here you're just saying that sometimes in the reference prices, some prices values are adjusted downwards. Is there a way for the public to verify, or is there a way GRA itself or customs itself goes into the markets? Because you see, this is a blanket statement that we've made. So in the minds of the public, there's no longer discount, so we expect that when we go to the market, we'll pay more. Is there a way you monitor to ensure that, look, this reference price list indicates this has reduced, so you're selling this a bit too high? Then how do you ensure that businesses are not taking undue advantage?
There's one valuation method called the deductive value method. That is valuation method 5. That you have to go to the market, ask for the price of what a trader is selling his goods. You take out his profit margin and all those things. You check his books to ensure that some of the expenses and all those things that are deducted to arrive at the tax base, at the unit price. And to our surprise, if we want to go by what is sold in town, the unit values will be so high. The unit values will be so high. So we do not regularly use that method because it is not beneficial to them. What we do is to check from the exporter's end how much this thing is costing from the same country around the same time, or check somebody who has equally imported the same thing, similar product, identical product, around the same time. Then we use those, and we use the minimum of those values just to guide us.
So we should expect that there will, even on the market in terms of pricing, there will be fairness, because
Yes.
we know that when there's a blanket statement like that, people expect that, well, all goods and services must increase, right?
But other indicators like the exchange rate.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking, how do you, so that's why I'm asking, how do you ensure?
We understand his plight. In fact, he pays higher duty, Mr. Obi, when it comes to his products, electrical products, very, very high, in billions. Sometimes I wonder where they get the money to pay some of these things. And when you go to the market and they are mentioning prices, if you know about the duties they pay, you will not be surprised about their unit prices in the market.
Okay, so now the discount policy has been reversed, but the reference price list will still be there as a way of ensuring that there's fairness in the system, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your final words, we are wrapping up in a minute.
To add to what he said, you see, if you are doing investigation, you can't do it in a vacuum. So this reference price list is there to guide what we do. Because if you are going to say A has brought a commodity, the price is not reasonable, you should have a basis. So that is why it is kept such that even with the method 6 fallback,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. So when people say customs reduces values, it is not so. We have the methods you go through. So every method, apart from the first, even the first one, there are adjustments. We need to add the freight and other things.
Yeah.
So the methods comes with certain adjustments. So that is what people don't get. They don't understand why a value have to be adjusted in a certain way. But it's just following the methods as spelled out by WTO, because there are elements you need to add, there are elements you need to take out.
Okay. So just one quick last one. Earlier you mentioned that you do these valuation based on how much is quoted by the person who produces, most of the time outside the country.
Yeah.
Do you use the exchange rate at the time of importation or at the time the goods arrive at the port?
At the time, okay, the way it works, if your vessel arrives today, the exchange rate from Bank of Ghana, the one that comes out on Mondays, the interbank rate, so we apply it the following Tuesday up to the following Monday. So it takes 1 week. So it's stable for a week.
So it's not when I imported, say now the interbank exchange rate is about 8 cedi per dollar. What is it?
It's not when you import, it's the arrival.
It's when it arrives. Okay, thank you so much. There's a lot to discuss, but time won't permit us, and I know that you have a lot of questions. Hopefully, when we go into the new year, we'll have Mr. Yadaimi, who is Supervisor Vehicle Valuation at the CTSB, and Bilson Jada Batagba, who is also Supervisor at the CTSB headquarters. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and we wish you the best of the rest of the year and a happy new year in advance. Also to Seth Chuma Papua, Executive Secretary, Association of Ghana Industries, and Dr. Joseph Ubing, who is President of GUTA. Thank you for joining the program. Well, next up, we have a conversation on the law challenge. You want to stay for that? Do stay.